Leader of the third party.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And just in recognition of the extraordinary measures that are being taken here today, I'd just like to take a few minutes to outline and to provide some comment with this. Every British Columbian owes a debt of gratitude to the professionals that are working on the front lines and in hospitals, care homes, and all those helping in immeasurable ways to ensure people get the care and support that they need. I want to extend some special recognition to the Chief Medical Officer in our province, Bonnie Henry. Dr. Henry has become a household name and a trusted voice for countless British Columbians, and I echo the many British Columbians who have reached out online to say that I hope that she is well and to thank her for the service that she's doing for our province. This is an unprecedented moment in time. The best medical advice here and around the world is that physical distancing remains the best way that we can limit the spread of the virus to save lives. For many, this means businesses are closing down and workers are being laid off. I think it's critical to understand that the Supply Act in front of this House today isn't a traditional economic response. It's part of our immediate health response. What legislators must do is make sure it is economically possible for people to physically distance themselves from each other. If we fail to provide the support necessary for workers and business owners to survive a period of economic shutdown, then we risk losing one of the most important health policy responses that we have, physical distancing. The federal government led the way last week when they rolled out their Phase 1 of the federal COVID-19 economic response plan. Today, the province responds with some additional measures. We're happy to support those measures. Governments at every level have a role to play. Sometimes that will mean developing coordinated programs and approaches. In others, it will mean filling the gaps in our policy responses. My colleague and I stand in full support of the need to address this crisis with rapidly rolled out and coordinated health and economic policies. All parties have made an incredible effort to meet this crisis united, putting partisanship aside in favor of what is necessary in this initial response. Let's be clear. This is the provincial government's first response. There may very well need to be additional policies as we get more information about the trajectory we're on or as we identify gaps in this policy response. Where the speed of money getting to people and small businesses' hands is most important is in this immediate response. We must be more deliberate and targeted in subsequent policies to ensure that we're not leaving people behind or failing to think about how our policies will affect the long-term recovery of our economy. In response, we've seen so far that there's at least 3 areas where more support looks to be warranted. First, for renters. And we heard more is coming this week. We expect policies will be rolled out to ensure that people are not being evicted and that renters have access to additional support should they need it. This cannot simply be passing the cost on to landlords, many of whom are renting out suites in homes or single units. This must be a thoughtful approach to supporting the rental ecosystem. Second, we need to think about the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations, who already take so much responsibility across countless communities in supporting those most at risk. COVID-19 increases those risks. It is NGOs who already have support programs in place that in many cases can be our strongest ally in ensuring that we don't leave people behind. Finally, we should take a hard look at how our response supports small business owners and their ability to maintain payrolls and keep the doors to their businesses from closing permanently. The fewer businesses that are forced to take these drastic steps, the better shape our economy will be in on the other side. These businesses hold communities together, employing more people than any other sector of our economy. We do not want to emerge on the other side of this and have businesses unable to reopen and struggling to return to the jobs that they once had. This will slow down the recovery and increase the costs government will pay. This bill provides 9 months of funding to implement the 2020 provincial budget, which was introduced just over a month ago. It feels like a completely different time. It also adds room to spend an additional $5 billion to respond to the emergency before us as a result of COVID-19. This includes $1.7 billion to address immediate health care and social services needs created by this pandemic, funding for housing, income assistance, community living BC, and other social supports, shelter programs, and corrections. It includes ongoing funding for contracted services that deliver crucial programs on behalf of or in partnership with the province. And there's $1.8 billion allocated for the supports for individuals and businesses. The province will be topping up the expanded EI programs at the federal level, and $1,000 tax-free to anyone who is eligible under the new federal criteria. This is a welcome top-up. This is also somewhere where we must be carefully monitoring these programs to see who is falling through the cracks. We need to ensure that nobody is left behind in government's response to this pandemic. There will also be extra supports going to people in early July through the enhanced BC Climate Action Tax Credit. As well, there will be a 6-month moratorium on student loan payments. As I mentioned, I'm concerned about how long it will take before people actually see many of these supports. Many people are in the financial crunch now, facing rent payments due in 1 week on April 1st, or facing imminent mortgage and bill payments. People need help now, and I urge the government to do everything it can to get supports out the door immediately. There's also some relief for businesses, including the financial package enabled by this bill, though I do worry that it may not be enough to keep many of our small business owners and businesses viable. The supports are mainly tax deferrals, which will no doubt help some, but businesses will be able to defer PST, municipal, carbon taxes, and the employer's health tax until September the 30th. Businesses and commercial properties will also have their tax rate cut in half for 2020. But I think that there is more that the government may need to do to ensure BC businesses remain viable in the months ahead until we pull through this. One area that many experts have called for is enhanced wage subsidies to support and encourage businesses to keep all of their employees. In the coming months, when we get the next opportunity to come back, we'll be questioning the government on why they have chosen to not go this route and if it was a good decision. And that will be part of the process that we talk about when we go through the budget and the accountability aspects of this. I want to conclude by making a couple of comments about where we are as a province and what recovery must look like. I've heard from many people that they appreciate the three parties in BC have put aside differences to share a unified, immediate response to this crisis. You can see that in the House here today. This ensures the health and economic policies are brought into place as quickly as possible, and that we're all truly working in the best interests of our constituents, people across BC. Well, there's no room for partisanship in the midst of this crisis. We still need to ensure that there's transparency in decision-making. We can seek accountability and transparency from government on the decisions that they make, and work collaboratively on all sides to get solutions. Both aspects of the role are critical ones for us all to play at this moment in time. And British Columbians should expect that on the other side of this health crisis, that politicians look at the recovery as an opportunity to build a stronger and more resilient province and economy. We need to ensure that we're providing the immediate support so desperately needed to people in the immediate term, that we're taking care of the most vulnerable members of our society, and that we're supporting everyone to do their part to respond to the public health emergency before us. And as we look at the months and years ahead, that we rebuild our economy, that we need to be absolutely clear about what we're trying to build. We need to build an economy that is stronger, more equitable, and that is truly sustainable as we come out of this crisis that we're in. I will work day in and day out to ensure that the government is supporting everyone who needs the help today, and that we're building the foundations of a healthier and more prosperous society as we come out of this together. Thank you.